Welcome to A Slob Comes Clean, the podcast. I am Dana K. White. I share my personal deslobification process as I figure out ways to keep my own home under control. I share the truth about cleaning and organizing strategies that actually work in real life for real people, people who don't love cleaning and organizing. Thanks for joining me today. This is podcast number 436, and I am going to call it Decluttering When You Are in Less Than Ideal Circumstances. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I've put together a few of the questions that have been asked over at askdanaky.com. So I'm going to be answering those here. And basically the common theme for these questions is they're living in frustrating circumstances, not like super bad or anything, but just in situations, they're living in situations that are less than ideal, right? Like this is going on, but I wish it wasn't, but it is. And so we're just going to talk about that. Like, how do you declutter? How do you manage your house in those times? Okay, here we go. You ready? First question. We live in an older home with 0 closets, not for clothes, nothing for linens. We have put up freestanding hanger racks. I was about to read hunger racks, and then I was like, well, that's interesting. We put up freestanding hanger racks and, of course, dressers and shelves for things where possible, but I am struggling so hard with take it there now when nothing seems to have a home that makes sense. Where would I look first is always out on the counter in my office where I throw everything. How do you get your brain to remember and feel natural about something's home being in a place that just makes no sense? I.e., towels have to go in a bookcase, camping supplies has to go in the pantry. My mind never wants to return it to the home I've assigned it to. Okay, a couple things here. Assigning a home is different than identifying a home through where would I look first. Okay. Now, I want to address the reality that this is a hard situation. They live in an older home with 0 closets. And I know that there are houses out there like that, right? That they don't have closets. There is not a linen situation, whatever. They have freestanding hanger racks and, of course, dressers and shelves for things where possible. But I'm struggling so hard with take it there now when nothing seems to have a home that makes sense. Okay. If a home makes sense already to you, like if something has an established home, that is easy stuff. Okay. Yes, you take it there now. But the key when you don't know where something goes is to ask, where would I look for this first? Now you say where I would look for it first is always out on the counter or in my office where I throw everything. Okay. If that is the case, which is the case for, I would say 80% of us who struggle with clutter, like you're not alone here, right? Like so many of us know exactly what you're saying. This is a question that I hear a lot, right? Like, is your first reaction, where would I look first? Well, I would look first right there and I don't want it to be there. Like, that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to change, right? So we take that out of the equation. So the counter or in your office where you throw everything, we're taking that out of the equation. So the question becomes, where would I look first if the counter was clear the way I want it to be? Where would I look first if my office was actually functioning as an office and not a dumping ground? So where would I look first is the key, because then I don't have to get my brain to remember and feel natural. I'm going with what's natural so I don't have to remember. I know it's hard. I know it's especially hard when you feel like, I mean, this sounds like it's not a brand new house for you. Okay. Like you've lived here for a while. These are your frustrations with your house. They are valid frustrations, right? It's less than ideal, but it is the house that you live in, right? And even if you did say, which you didn't, but even if you said, well, I think we're going to move, even in a situation where somebody tells me they're thinking they're going to move, I'm like, still declutter for this house that you're in. So whatever house that you're in is what you need to declutter for. The house that you're in has 0 closets for clothes or linens. Okay. You do have some freestanding hanger racks and dressers and shelves. So out of what you have, where would you look first for these things? Because the problem is when you're just looking at your stuff and thinking, I need to put all this stuff in different places, you start putting things in places, you start getting super logical, but your brain doesn't go to those places when it's actually time to find the thing. So what we want to do is really zero in on the instinct, right? The instinct of, if I needed my towels, where would I look for them first? You're saying your places make no sense. We're embracing the fact that the places make no sense. And we're saying that sense is out the window. We are not going to logicalize this. We are just going to say, if I needed my towels, where would I look for them first? Oh, I would look for them in the office. Well, that's not an option. So if the office was clear, if I needed my towels and the office was clear, where would I look for them first? Oh, on the countertop. Okay. Well, that countertop is supposed to be clear. So if I needed my towels and the office was actually functioning the way it needs to be, and the countertop was clear, where would I look for them first? Okay. Don't think too hard. Go with the place where you would actually look for them first. That makes no sense. That is not where you wish it could be. That is not ideal. That is not the closet that doesn't exist that you wish you had. Okay. Go with, like, actually, where would I look? Well, I would actually look for those first on the shelf above the washing machine. And I'm not saying that's the place for them. I'm just giving you an example pulled out of my head. So that's the place where I would look for it first. I'm going to go take it there right now. Now I'm going to get there and I'm going to have to embrace the reality of that space. If there's no room for it there, well, then I got to get rid of something else for it. Or if there's, you know, only so much room, I go, you know what? I wish I could have 17 towels. And the reality of this house is that I can only have 4. I don't know how many people live in your house, right? But the reality of this house is this. And so the way that because you said, how do you get your brain to remember and feel natural about something's home being in a place that just makes no sense? You go with what feels natural over above what makes sense. Now we have to embrace that space, and we're not letting that be the thing that keeps us from being able to live in our house because it's covering our countertops, right? Because we already talked about that. So we're not talking about that. But we're going with the place that, even though it doesn't make sense, it's the place where I would look for it first. And we make that the home, as opposed to thinking of it as, this is the best place for this item. They need to go on the shelf. It's the only thing that makes sense. And then being mad at myself when I never look there for that item. Okay. It is better to say, where would I look for it first? Take it there now, embrace the reality of that space, get rid of something else, or acknowledge, you know what, actually, there's no room for this thing in my house. Because maybe we're not talking about towels. Maybe we're talking about the 17th pair of jeans. And we go, okay, so I would look first for my jeans on this shelf. But I was thinking of this as, well, where do I look first for my 17th pair of jeans when that shelf is already full? No, that shelf determines how many jeans we can have. Maybe we can only have 7 pairs of jeans. Right? I know there are people probably listening going, who needs 7 pairs of jeans? Well, I mean, we're not going to go too drastic here because that'll just make everybody give up before they start, right? But you say, oh, this is the shelf I have for jeans. So make sure that we're acknowledging and embracing the reality of that space when we get there, and make sure that if you don't have an answer to the first question, where would I look for this first? If you really can't think of an answer, then you need to ask that second question, which is, if I needed this item, would it ever occur to me that I already had one? Because the reality is, if your house has no closets, not for clothes, not for linens, nothing like that, you may not be able to keep all the extra stuff that you think you would want to keep if you lived in a house that did have closets. So you need to get rid of stuff anyway. It'd be great to get rid of it in the trash and the obvious donation part, but go hard on that second question and just say, you know what? I need to be getting stuff out of my house. So I need to be honest with myself and say, if I needed this item, it would literally never occur to me that I already had one, which is the reality of when things don't have homes and they're just shoved in places, then we don't have an awareness of what we have. And therefore we end up, I'm saying we, and I really mean me, I end up, when my house was a total disaster and I didn't know what I had, and there was just stuff everywhere and it was in random places and nothing was in a things were in logical places, but I couldn't find anything, right? Like I had put them in these places and I didn't know where to go because I wasn't using the where would I look for it first as my way to determine, to identify where the home was, not where it should be, but where it actually is. This is where I would look. This is where it needs to live. right? So that reality that, what was I talking about? Golly, what was I talking about? It was so good, y'all. I promise it was so good what I was going to talk about. What I was about to say was going to change everybody's life. And sorry about that. But anyway, oh, I need to get rid of it, right? Like if I need to be honest with myself about that I would never go looking for it. Okay. Because there was so much stuff. I didn't know what I had. I'd forgotten about it because there was just more than my brain could handle. And so if there was more than my brain could handle, it was better to get rid of it and go buy another one if I ever needed it, which I rarely did. But even if I did, it was better to go buy another one than to have it stay in my house and me not know that it was there and me need it and go buy another one. Right? Like I have one in my house and I'm going to buy another one. That's the real definition of wasting money, is to pay for something that I already have because my house is so cluttered that I don't even remember what I have, right? Now, I'm not saying that you're in that situation. I'm just saying go with the instinct. What's happening here is you are deciding all these great places and then trying to shove your instinct into a cowboy boot that doesn't fit. That's not really a saying, but I mean, that's what it feels like here, right? Like you're trying to shove it into the 17th pair of jeans that is way too small. You're trying to mold and warp your instinct and reality. It's better just to go, what is the instinct? That's where it's going to go. Okay. Where would I look for it first? Less than ideal situation. And yet I personally have experienced and have heard from, I mean, I would actually say over the years, thousands of you who have told me, I always hated my home. I thought my home was too small. I thought I didn't have I didn't have enough space. I didn't whatever. And then the more I decluttered, the more I realized, oh, my home's actually perfectly fine. Even if you feel the desire to move, declutter. Because if you were going to move, you'd have to declutter anyway. But also you might declutter and go, oh, actually, I do like my house. That's what happened to me. I literally added square footage to my home by decluttering. I cleared out rooms that had been completely unusable before. All right, next question. Hi, Dana. I've been following you for years in parentheses, and have been so helped by your methods. Thank you. I have a question now about a temporary season with a much lower clutter threshold. I'm due with my 8th baby in April. Yay. Okay. Also, I'm really behind on these. So anyway, I think your baby is probably at least 6 months old now. Okay. I'm due with my 8th baby in April. This is her talking, not me. Okay. All right. Y'all know I had my hysterectomy. This is my first time having a baby with older kids in school, and I'm feeling overwhelmed by managing the uniforms, papers, etc. in that initial postpartum period while keeping normal life from overtaking our modest-sized home. My husband and kids are wonderful and will work hard to keep things going well, but I'd love to make things easier for all of us. Do you have any suggestions for how to prepare for a time when I know I'll have a lower clutter threshold, but I also know will not be forever? Okay. Again, congratulations. This is an exciting time, right? And so it is ideal, right? Because it's a baby. So that makes it ideal. But it's like, oh, life is wonky for a little while. And we'd love to hear how it all went for you because it's over. But but the reality is this is your situation. And if you know that you're going to go through a much lower clutter threshold, which that this is your 8th baby, you need to have fewer things to deal with, but you also have older kids now who are dealing with things that are kind of outside of your control as far as papers and all that type of stuff, right? The number one thing I would do is try to ruthlessly declutter. So I would ruthlessly declutter now before the baby, which was already born. But if someone else is in this situation, I would recommend that you ruthlessly declutter before the baby comes. Really get stuff, like if anything is even iffy, go ahead and let it go, because that'll only make it easier and it'll give you a little more wiggle room within that clutter threshold. But also, you mentioned specifically the uniforms, papers, stuff like that. Declutter in those specific areas. So Maybe we do I don't know what kind of situation you're in, what systems you've had before, but really limiting, even if it means packing some things away until this time period has passed, but really limiting the number of, uniforms. We are going to have 5 uniforms per kid, and we're going to really focus on, doing the laundry. Maybe the oldest kid, I don't know how old they are, but maybe they can be in charge of the laundry on Saturday, and because it's uniforms, hopefully we can, wash it all together, and we're going to do a load, and we get all that stuff done, or 2 loads, whatever, depending on how big your thing is, washing machine is. But you really say, I'm going to narrow down, I'm going to declutter, even if it's for temporary, like I'm packing other things up. I'm going to do that, because what can happen too, I know I only have 3 kids, but when my kids had uniforms, and some of them were kind of interchangeable, and then like, oh, this kid can't wear this anymore, but the brother can actually wear it within another probably 6 months. Or, oh, actually, you know what? This is something that the sister could wear in 7 months. And so it feels like, oh, it just kind of stayed around because it was gonna be useful so soon that it didn't feel like something to actually completely pack up, right? With 8 kids, I'm assuming that you really have that going on, right? Like, you can kind of have maybe some 3 kids that are all wearing the same size right now, and then so really zero in on just having the utmost basics. And then I would, even if you don't like it and it's only temporary, I would put the trash can or recycle bin at the door that the kids walk in when they come in, and just say, while this is one of your jobs, while the baby is little, is a newborn, and then let's try to continue it after that too. But let's really get let's empty out anything that isn't necessary very first thing as soon as you walk in the door, right? It's that same concept of walking straight from the mailbox to the trash or recycling bin, and not going to a second location, like not putting things down on the dining room table or putting things down on the kitchen counter. It's like, if I can go straight there, I'm going to be okay. But if we just make a pile at all, it's like it has no hope but to not, but to get out of control. So again, congratulations. All right. Hi, Dana. I was feeling pretty good about gaining control of our home when we went from not wanting pets to having 5 in 2 years. Please don't ask me how. um, 2 large hairy dogs and 3 cats. My approach, divide and conquer. I crammed all the living room furniture into my office craft space. Dog hair, and dust were assigned to the living space. As cats came in, I had to add blankets to furniture, visual clutter, and keep bedroom doors closed, further dividing the house. How do I reclaim our home, or at least how can I improve my approach? Okay, so yay, we've got babies and pets. This is all the stuff that makes me happy, right? So you've got 2 large hairy dogs and 3 cats. They're going to be there a while, like their lifetimes, right? I mean, like, I hear of cats that live like 15 years. And so I would say embrace it. And instead of it being, I'm crammed all of the living room furniture into another place so that I can have this, it's like, this is our reality now. Our reality now is that cats live here or dogs live here. Okay. Getting a robot vacuum might be a worthy investment. I mean, it's Christmas right now. So go to amazon.com/shop/a slob comes clean and start there, so that I'll get the affiliate commission. But I mean, like, this might be the time where you say, hey, person who wants to buy me a nice gift, or hey, people who have randomly asked if I wanted anything, I want something toward this thing, like what can I do to manage? Like, it is fact, if you're going to have animals in the house that shed, there's going to be animal hair in the house, right? So you adjust to living with that to a degree, but then you also adjust what are some daily things that you can do. The thing that I always say about things that drive you bananas is solve that problem today and then solve it again tomorrow and then solve it again the next day. So if it's been a while since you've really dealt with all the hair and it's really driving you crazy, you dig in and deal with the hair, but don't wait until it gets out of control again. Tomorrow, deal with the hair. And you go, oh, that only took me a quick swish and swipe here and a running of the robot vacuum or a quick whatever. All right. And then do it again the next day. And if you do it for 7 days, you're going to figure out the way that works best for you. Okay. But this is reality now. You've got 5 animals living there. And it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to you, right? Like, I mean, you love it, right? You love it. So it is what it is, right? So we learn to deal with it. And not having any living room furniture to sit on for the next 15 years is not an option. So maybe as you do need to replace some of that furniture, because over the course of 15 years, there is a decent chance that you need to replace a couch. Okay, well then this time I'm going to go with a leather couch or, something that doesn't get hair on it. I mean, I'll tell you, I have a friend who has 3 dogs. And when she bought a new couch, like she compared the dog's hair to the actual couch. She blah, blah, blah. I mean, she went through, that was part of her couch buying decision was the dogs that I have. How is that hair going to either stick to and not be able to come off easily of this couch? Or how's it going to blend in when I don't get it off immediately? That kind of thing. Okay. In the year of the pandemic, I moved twice before finding a dream home which needed significant renos. I've been stuck renovating and literally moving boxes from room to room and living in a disaster zone. The bulk of the serious renos have been finished for over a year now. It's just cosmetics now that I'm doing. Can't afford to hire out anymore, but they are time and energy consuming and general horrible dust mess, old character. Anyway, lots and lots of stuff, right? I also had some life events interfere. And I want a clean and minimal house, but how do I declutter if I am stuck in the never ending painting, sanding jobs with very little energy left? Do I have to give up one to complete the other? No, you don't have to give up one to complete the other. What I would do if I were you is while you're working on whatever, listen to Decluttering at the Speed of Life, okay? Or listen to my podcasts. Those are free. But go listen to the book and remind yourself of the no mess process. Remind yourself of the 5-step decluttering process that allows you to declutter without making a bigger mess in any amount of time available, because that's the key, right? And with very little, whatever energy you have, you can get decluttering done. You can make decluttering progress. So you spend time, 5 minutes if you have it, 30 minutes if you have it. You can do a lot in 30 minutes and say, I'm going to throw away trash. Which there's always trash, especially during a renovation, right? I'm going to see if there's anything that needs to be donated. Because you said specifically, I want a minimal house. Now, y'all know I don't teach minimalism, but if you want to go to minimalism, decluttering is how you get there, right? And so the more you get rid of, the more you are potentially achieving that house as you are doing this. So remember that getting rid of stuff is only going to make everything else easier. If you have to move a bunch of things to do one of these small jobs that's really, really, annoying, but you're like, oh my goodness, I've got to do this. If you're touching it anyway, have your donate box in your trash bag there so that as you touch something to move it to get to the baseboards that you need to deal with, you're not moving it aside unless it's something that's going to actually stay in the house. If you're going to touch it anyway and it needs to leave the house as trash or donation, you can go ahead and do that, right? So the thing I would say is refresh your memory on the no mess decluttering process and realize that the whole value of it is that you're only going to make progress and that you can make that progress with minimal time and minimal energy. Not that you can't put more time and energy into it, but whatever time and energy that you have, you can make real progress. And so really make sure that you're doing it that way. Because if you are just like, oh, yeah, I really like the no mess process. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to declutter and you pull everything out. That's not using the no mess process. And that's the thing that feels defeating and ends up being self-defeating, right? So really zero in on the process. Also, you can usually listen to Decluttering at the Speed of Life at, most libraries have copies as well. Okay, next. Got lots of people in less than ideal situations here. First, thank you. Your approach helped me declutter my tiny, cluttered 800 square foot condo. Question: we are moving into a much bigger house very soon. How do I give myself the advantage of having a decluttered home from the start with all the chaos that comes with a move? It's hard to, for example, take things where they go right away when I'm not sure where things go yet. Okay. So, the reality, the less than ideal situation, is the chaos of a move. It is fact. It is not fun. Maybe there are people out there who think it's fun to move. I don't think there are very many, right? Like, there's some excitement. I'm not saying there's not excitement, but there is chaos that comes with a move because just packing up and then unpacking and all that. But don't decide ahead of time to be defeated in the whole take things where they go right away when I'm not sure where things go yet. Just like in that first question that I answered, it is not about knowing. It is not about being sure where things go. It is about asking yourself, where would I look for this first? Which you do even in a new house. I moved, it's the same thing I did. Where would I look for this first? It feels a little woo woo, but I'm literally only asking myself that question because it did not have an established home. So nothing in my new house has an established home, right? Like if it has an established home, it's easy. I'm not asking that question. I am only ever asking, where would I look for it first if I have no idea where it's supposed to go? But I'm not asking where it's supposed to go. I'm asking, where would I look for it first? In this house, not knowing where it is, where's the first place I would go to look for it? What's the first drawer I would open? What's the first room I would walk to? That is what you're asking yourself. Okay. So it's not confidence about where it goes, it's instinct about where you would look for it first, even if you don't know for sure it's going to be there. But if you put it in the place where you look for it first, and then later when you're looking for it, you take a moment and say, okay, where would I look for this first? So many times, not every time, but so many times it's in the first place where you look because you put it in the place where you would look for it first. Got it? Okay. So I'm just excited. I'm excited for you that you did so much decluttering. I'm excited that you're moving into a much bigger house. You're going to do great. If you decluttered down to an 800 square foot condo and now you're moving into a bigger house, you're going to really, it's going to be great. Just don't start adding stuff because you have space, right? Okay. So, what was the theme of today? The theme was the house you have is the house you have, right? How do you declutter in less than ideal situations? For the vast majority of the people listening to this podcast right now, you're not living in an ideal situation, or you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast, right? Like my house was more ideal than I realized when I started decluttering because I was frustrated with my stuff. And therefore, that frustration made me feel like it was my house I was frustrated with. What I was actually frustrated with was the stuff. The more stuff I got out of my house, which is the value of obvious donations just leaving, trash just leaving, things that I acknowledge and admit I would never actually go looking for, just leaving. All that stuff being gone brings this less than ideal situation to much closer to the point of being an ideal situation. Okay. All right. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget that Take Your House Back is on sale right now. We have an all day declutter coming up on January 18th, 2025. How is that even a real year? But anyway, if you have been meaning to join, now is the time. Go to aslobcomesclean.com/take and we will have the link in the show notes. All right. I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.